and 10 people are facing federal charges of attempted murder this morning. This comes after prosecutors say an Alvarado police officer and correctional officers were attacked Friday night at an ICE detention facility.
All right, guys, did you guys hear about this? 11 guys ambushed an ICE facility in Alvarado, Texas. So the story goes on July 4th, okay, a bunch of guys fired fireworks outside the facility to lure ICE agents outside, or law enforcement agents, whoever was in that building outside, so they can ambush them.
Say his name. Jaime Garcia. He was a farm worker, a human being. He fell 30 feet from a building during a massive ICE raid in Camarillo, California. And now he's dead.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for joining us today. And as always, big love to all our subscribers and to the incredible journalists, community organizers, documentarians, and independent creators who continue to bring us the real stories from the ground. Your bravery and dedication make it possible for the rest of us to truly understand what's happening beyond the headlines. Today, we're talking about a deeply emotional and polarizing story coming out of Texas. One that has people across the country questioning the limits of justice and the power of human compassion. A group of individuals dressed in military gear stormed an ICE facility in Texas. 10 of them have now been captured and charged with attempted murder of federal officers. While some quickly labeled them as dangerous criminals, many others have chosen to see them as defenders of the voiceless, as people who stood up against what they believe to be an unrelenting, violent system.
And 10 people are facing federal charges of attempted murder this morning. This comes after prosecutors say an Alvarado police officer and correctional officers were attacked Friday night at an ICE detention facility. Trevor Sohaki is there live this morning in Alvarado this morning with the very latest on this. And Trevor, authorities are calling this an ambush. What else have you learning?
Yeah, that's right, Carmen. It's still very tense out here. We've seen multiple ICE agents roaming around. They've checked our credentials, and they don't want us to show you this on camera, but just over to my right, there's an armored truck over there, as well as multiple vehicles that are kind of protecting the entrance to this ICE detention facility behind me, making sure that everyone who is here is supposed to be here, and no one can get in unless they are allowed to be here. And that's because officials say this was a planned attack on ICE agents intended to kill ICE agents. They say this was no peaceful protest. There were shots fired. Now, the acting North Texas U.S. Attorney Nancy Larson, she says there are about a dozen or so people who came to this Prairie Land Detention Center in Alvarado on Friday night. She says they were dressed in black military-style clothes and used fireworks and vandalized property to lure agents into a trap. Authorities allege a suspect in a wooded area near the center then shot an Alvarado police officer in the neck, and a second suspect fired 20 to 30 bullets at officers who had stepped outside. Investigators found AR-style rifles at the scene, and the defendants were found with body armor.
All right, guys, did you guys hear about this? 11 guys ambushed an ICE facility in Alvarado, Texas. So the story goes on July 4th, okay, a bunch of guys fired fireworks outside the facility to lure ICE agents outside, or law enforcement agents, whoever was in that building outside, so they can ambush them. Now, what the agents did not know is that there's going to be an ambush following as soon as they come outside. Now, 2 agents that were unarmed came outside to just see, why are people firing fireworks outside my work building? Another law enforcement agent came outside and was shot in the neck. Luckily, he's stable and he's going to survive. Now, 11 people were there in total. 11 guys were there in total when the ICE officers came outside and, got the situation under control. They found an AR-style rifle that had jammed. Thank goodness that rifle had jammed. Now, the men, they were in military-style uniforms. They had equipment. They had gear. And they got out of there. They left. Okay? I think they left because the rifle had jammed and their plan went to shit. But they were eventually pulled over and all of them were arrested. Now, the charges that the 11 guys are going to be getting is 10 suspects were charged with 3 counts of attempted murder of a federal officer and 3 counts of discharging a firearm in relation to a violent crime. Now, the 11th person, that lucky SOB, was charged with obstruction of justice and conspiracy to attempt to conceal and destroy evidence.
So apparently President Miller is ramping up the quota for ICE agents so much that a lot of them are regretting their jobs and feeling very depressed. A lot of them have to do 4 a.m. raids on non-violent, just straight up U.S. citizens, you know? I mean, they've been living here for however long. They have no criminal history. They have jobs. They have kids. They have families. They live in a neighborhood. They have a whole life here. And ICE is just having to go in and kidnap these people. And I guess the ICE agents some of them have souls and are feeling bad about it, which, I mean, it seems like, how could you not feel bad about it? But whatever. If you guys feel so bad about it, then quit. Don't take this money. There's plenty of other shit you can do in this world. Stop being fascist helpers, okay? The whole we were just following orders thing is not going to save you when this all goes to trial in a few years. Just like the Nuremberg trials. That's going to happen here.
The attackers, equipped in tactical gear, reportedly entered the ICE facility determined to disrupt operations and, in their words, protect vulnerable people from harm. While violence is never an easy or clean choice, supporters argue that these individuals acted from a place of desperation and moral urgency. Their supporters point to years of pain inflicted by ICE raids, deportations, and family separations. One name that echoes in these discussions is Jaime Garcia, a man who lost his life during an ICE raid in California. Jaime wasn't a dangerous criminal. He was a neighbor, a community member, and for many, a friend. His death wasn't just a tragedy. It became a powerful symbol of a system that, critics say, prioritizes fear and punishment over humanity and rehabilitation. Beyond Jaime's story, countless others have been forcibly removed from the U.S. and deported to places they barely know, places like El Salvador, Jamaica, and Cuba. Many of these individuals had no criminal records at all. Some were working, paying taxes, raising children, and contributing to their communities when they were abruptly arrested, detained, and sent away. In these countries, they often face immediate imprisonment, violence, or simply the impossibility of rebuilding a life from scratch without family or support networks. To those who sympathize with the Texas attackers, these stories represent unbearable injustice. They argue that the attackers did not act out of hatred for America or its people. They acted out of love for those who have been silenced and trampled by a harsh immigration enforcement system. Critics of ICE have long argued that immigration raids tear apart families and cause lifelong trauma for children and entire communities. They say that raids and mass deportations are driven more by political agendas and fear than by any true concern for safety. Of course, no one can deny that violence brings risks and consequences. 10 people now face life-changing charges and possible decades in prison. But for their supporters, these individuals are not seen as terrorists or criminals. They are seen as people who felt so cornered and unheard that they resorted to an extreme act to force the country to pay attention to the silent suffering of immigrant communities.
So pretty much a bunch of white people fucked around and found out that you don't attack a Border Patrol facility. On July 4th of 2025, there was an ambush at the Prairie Land Detention Center in Alvarado, Texas, where these 10 individuals allegedly lured ICE officers with fireworks before shooting an Alvarado police officer in the neck. And the funny thing is, they all left forensics at the scene, which included graffiti, like ICE pig, and fuck you pigs on vehicles, which suggested that they all had a premeditated attack in mind with ideological motives. And the incident just reflects a rare escalation in anti-ICE sentiment. But the funny thing is, besides this lady right here, who kind of looks like she's Indian Asian, All of these people are white. None of the people that ICE is going after are in this mugshots. Now my question is, if the people that are being deported aren't causing these kinds of problems, why are a bunch of white people?
Look at this crew. These 10 suspects caught planning an ambush at a federal ICE facility on the 4th of July. They came to kill federal officers. That's not a protest. That's attempted murder, which is exactly what they're getting charged with. So where's the outrage from the left? Where are the media headlines screaming about white supremacy and domestic terror cells? Oh, that's right. It doesn't fit the narrative because these suspects aren't Trump supporters. They're reportedly tied to Antifa, the unofficial militia arm of the Democrat Party. The same people who spent years crying about the Proud Boys, telling us that January 6th was the darkest days in history. But now, nothing but silence? Because this is their side's violence. The truth is, Antifa has been protected, funded, and enabled for years. They're not some random activists. They were allegedly equipped with radios, weapons, armor, and even planned to lure officers into a kill zone. This was a coordinated attack. So where's the DOJ now? Where's the urgent press conferences? Where's the demand to label this group a domestic terror threat? I'll tell you why it's quiet, because they're all liberal extremists and the system only cares when they can blame you. Am I wrong?
Don't mess with Texas. In Texas, 10 individuals have been arrested and charged with attempted murder. In Alvarado, Texas, on July 4th, 10 to 12 individuals showed up at an ICE facility ready for an ambush. They showed up dressed in military clothing and armed with fireworks. They began shooting these fireworks at ICE officials, shooting one ICE official in the neck. Well, those men have been caught and arrested and have been charged with 3 counts of attempted murder on a federal officer and 3 counts of discharging a firearm in relation to a crime of violence. These individuals could be serving up to 10 years to life in prison. One individual who got away and hid the evidence, that individual can be faced with 10 years in prison. Also in McAllen, Texas, another individual showed up and ambushed the ICE facility. That person lost his life. These attacks are happening all over America, and people are saying these are peaceful protests. These are not peaceful protests. These people come ready for a fight. They literally ambush the ICE facility and the ICE agents. These people are committing a serious crime. ICE officials are doing their job. They want to return to their home, to their family, just like you do. So kudos for Texas to actually stepping up and holding these men accountable for their actions. Let me know your thoughts on this one.
Say his name. Jaime Garcia. He was a farm worker, a human being. He fell 30 feet from a building during a massive ice raid in Camarillo, California. And now he's dead. Over 200 people arrested. The National Guard was there. The FBI was there. ICE, CBP, drones, guns, military force. All dropped onto a cannabis farm like it was a fucking war zone. And in the middle of this chaos, Jaime Garcia, a man trying to make a living, plummeted off a rooftop, cracked his skull. He didn't die on impact, but he was put on life support, and now he's gone. And what did the government say? Nothing. No press release, no name, no responsibility. This is how state violence works. They kick in the door, destroy lives, and leave the rest of us to clean up the truth. They want you to look away. Don't. They call this law enforcement. I call it execution by bureaucracy. Jaime was sending money to his wife, his daughter in Mexico. He wasn't a threat. He was a target. Because this system profits off of fear, detention, and disposable labor. This is what immigration enforcement looks like in 2025. It's not about border security. It's about control. It's about punishment. And it's about sending a message to anyone who doesn't fit the mold. So send your own message back. Say his name. Jaime Garcia. Say it loud. Say it everywhere. Because silence is complicity. And I'm not staying silent. So I need you to like, comment, repost. We need to get this everywhere, out to everyone. Jaime Garcia.
As these individuals prepare to face the courts, the country is left to wrestle with uncomfortable but necessary questions. How far should people go to defend human rights? When the law becomes an instrument of pain for the vulnerable, what tools do we have left to fight back? We want to hear your thoughts. Do you see these individuals as misguided and reckless, or as symbols of resistance against a system many believe to be broken beyond repair? Please share your comments below. Every voice matters in this conversation. And as always, let's take a moment to thank and uplift the courageous journalists, community reporters, immigrant rights advocates, and independent creators who continue to share these critical stories. Without them, these human tragedies might never see the light of day. If you found this video thought-provoking or meaningful, please give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. We'll keep bringing you stories that challenge us, move us, and push us to think more deeply about what justice really means. Until next time, stay compassionate, stay informed, and never stop fighting for what you believe is right.